Welcome to the TryPod, where we break down the NRL every game, every week from a punting perspective. I'm Jacob Wynn, he's the Adonis, and today we are going to preview round 8. Look, the nightmare continues for us when it comes to our best bets. 0-2 on the weekend. We lost a mixed matchup. We lost our multis in round 7. And we tipped the Titans plus half a try. They lost by 26. We tipped the Roosters minus 11.5. They lost the game outright. I feel it's lucky Winks wasn't running on Anzac Day. If we tipped her, we might have got her beaten as well, the way it's felt. 6-12, that brings us for the season. There is nowhere to hide with that record. And I talked about the predicament we're in the recap, so I won't go over all that. But obviously we start every show with our best bet record and how we're going, because it is the most important thing to us. And it's important for you guys, the viewers and the listeners, to take that knowledge on board and factor it in terms of what you make of our best bets. And we appreciate everyone's feedback, everyone sharing their thoughts, whether it's agreeing or not. We've had some positive support, we've had constructive support, we've had some other colourful stuff come through. But some people are telling us we should play more best bets because of the way some of our leans are gone. Other people are saying we should play less best bets because we aren't seeing it too well. I would say during a tough spell, I would err towards being more selective. In fact, in round 8, we are only on one game, but we have got 2 best bets on this game. So here we go. Rabbitohs against the Seagulls at Gosford. We're taking our first mechanical best bet of the season, where you split your staking up to increase the range of outcomes that's in your favour. The bet is Rabbitohs -2 at $1.80 mechanical, and you achieve that with a 95% stake at Rabbitohs -3.5 $1.90 on Sportsbet, and then remaining 5% stake on the Rabbitohs to win by exactly 2 at $21 on Bet365. Reason you do that, if they covered the -3.5, you still win effectively. You're paying 10 cents because you win at $1.80. If it's cruel and they win by exactly 2, you turn a cruel loss into money back. We are also playing the Rabbitohs team tries over 3.5, which is $1.89 on Sportsbet. Next best price, $1.83 on Ladbrokes. Adonis, give us the major factors of the handicap.
Yeah, so you explained the bet pretty well there regarding the -2 mechanical. And I feel this is a great week to sort of jump on South coming off a loss. And there was plenty of errors and an ill-disciplined performance last week. So there's plenty to sort of improve on, versus on what they sort of put out against the Tigers. And we sort of have liked South the past month, but we sort of stayed away from all their games because we sort of felt the line was a bit high. But now we get an opportunity with a line that we feel is a little bit too low to sort of jump on them. I feel that South match up pretty well against Manly, and even with Tapau returning, I feel there's a pretty clear edge in South's favour in terms of the forward pack. And Manly made a bit of a comeback last week against the Sharks and sort of made the scoreline a bit more respectable. But I'll put that more down to the Sharks sort of backing off rather than Manly being exceptional and being good in that second half. So without Turbo, I still feel Manly limited with what they can do with the ball. And if I look at all the game breakers in this team, they're sort of all lean towards me being on the South team. So guys like Walker, Murray, Cook, that can sort of explode and sort of score points and help change the momentum of the game. So I feel like South, as a small favourite, they're going to win this game by a try or more in most scenarios. So let's roll with that. We think they can put up a few tries as well, and that sort of eliminates the risk of either Taff or Ilias kicking goals. We feel that's the best way to play this game on our only sort of consensus lean this week.
Yeah, you make a really good point there about comebacks. Like, I believe, if a game is whatever, like 24-all, but one team got out 24-0 and the other team came back, I actually put more weight in building a big lead than I do coming back. Because when you come back, as Manly did that, there's somewhat hollow points because you've got no choice. You have to take risks. The game is gone. You have to push it. But when you're building a lead, well, you don't want to throw the game away. You want to be measured. So I'm more impressed by sides that can get out in front. I'm less impressed with flurries and comebacks. And that might have been what Manly did against the Sharks. And as for the Souths, people might be thinking, what? They just lost to the Bunnies. But that's kind of why I like them, because I know they're going to be quite annoyed about that. And I know that the biggest reason they lost, as well as the fact the Tigers are reinvigorated, was errors. Absolutely killed them. And it was the same story a couple of weeks ago. They still beat St. George by 12, but they were so sloppy with the footy. They could have won by a lot more. And even the Dogs mounted a little late comeback, might have scored the final 2 tries of the game against them on Easter Friday. So I just feel like we have not been exposed yet to the best of the Bunnies' ability. You understand the Latrell's out, but Taff showed he's very capable. We're still waiting for Walker to announce himself. I think Cook, who you mentioned, is a big at a key position hooker. So with a light line at a neutral venue, liking the Bunnies, and let's be clear about this too, mixed matchup, which is coming up, is going to tie into our favourite side, the Bunnies. Someone asked, why does a mixed matchup always linked with the best bets? They're kind of more likely to both go down. And that's absolutely true, but we want to find our strongest edge. That's going to be with our best bets. So it is true, our results are always going to be pronounced. And if our best bets lose, more likely our multis lose. But that's the way it goes. And it goes the other way. You think you're going to win, but it's important to factor that in when it comes to your staking. We've got 3 bets that are more likely to all win or all lose than 3 independent bets. So factor that in your staking, whichever direction you're going. But obviously not everyone can back every bookie. We really like all 3 plays, including the one you haven't heard yet. But let us know your thoughts. I personally respond to as many people as I can. As I said, some people are saying actually they want more best bets because the 2 that we mentioned last week that we didn't play were Panthers and Storm, who were both 9.5-point second half favourites. Both won their second halves by a landslide, especially Melbourne, the game we didn't touch on in the recap because we nipped in before that game kicked off Anzac Day night. Melbourne's won the second half 10 tries to none. So it's a little bit frustrating. I'm encouraged that people can watch the pod and benefit more than one way at least. And even if you're benefiting, going full steam against us, makes no difference to us. You know, which side you're on, we do our best. What hurts is there's good people that follow the pod. We don't want to let you guys down. I did post a graphic yesterday on social media, which I'll put on the screen now, give you some perspective because I know, 6-12 feels like the end of the world, but on any punting journey, and you can see there, this graphic is the cumulative tally of all TryPod NRL best bets, wins minus losses all time. So that climb is more wins than losses ever since 2015. And if you put your eyes to the far right of the screen, and even if you've got a 70-inch TV, it'll be hard to see, but there's a black line that's the cutoff of the 2022 season, and that's the drop off that we've had in 2022. So that kind of puts it into some perspective. That it feels awful, but it represents less than a 1% drop off overall. Or as I said to someone this week, if this season feels like we sunk the Titanic, that's fine, but then you'd have to say we won ourselves 4. We got 4 extra Titanics in the garage on last season alone. So it's good to have some perspective. Maybe I created that just to make myself feel better. Honestly, punting psychology is a funny thing. The losses hurt way more than the wins. But I put that graphic up too because it's fair warning to anyone who says they want to go against us. That's what you're up against. But hey, again, some punters, they do peak. You look at that graphic, you got to figure out where's the trend. Are we going up or down? We're going to keep striving to get better as you have to. It's been a baptism of fire for you, Adonis, mate. But before we talk game by game, we'll hear about how the market is shaping up thanks to Top Sport.
Family Tristan Merlihan here from Top Sport. With round 8, it presents us with a number of games over the 10 line where we've only got 3 games inside single figures, with one of them being South against Manly, which has moved from 3.5 out to 4. South slight favourites there. The other game, obviously both teams coming off a couple of big defeats, the Warriors and the Raiders, where the Raiders are slight favourites, 177 the Warriors, 205 the Warriors. Both of those sides were in those games for 50 and 60 minutes and they both got blown out in the end. So which side shows up and plays with full 80 will probably be key to that game. The game at the end of the round, the Dragons and the Tigers, I don't think we would have been expecting to say both of these are 2 informed teams coming into round 8 a couple of weeks ago, but they are, and the Tigers 245 underdogs in this game. One of the big moves so far has been for the Storm. They've been well backed since we released the markets early. Punters are just expecting them to be too good at 20.5. And the Cowboys are on the back of a number of wins, sitting pretty in the top 8. I think that surprised everyone. I certainly didn't expect them to be performing as well as what they are. They still go in big underdogs against Parramatta, who at a neutral ground at Darwin are going to be a tough nut to crack. The one game where punters have come for a team at the double figure line, which probably has been against the trend for a lot of the matches so far this season. A lot of the double figure lines, the punters have all jumped on the minus. But the Bulldogs have been back from 13.5 into 12.5 and short of the plus. So I think punters are still a little bit unsure and can't trust the Roosters at the moment, but they seem to be one of those sides when they drop back in class a little bit can put a number on teams. But we've got plenty of games. The key thing to note is that a lot of these total scores are still around that 40-point mark, despite there being some 10 and 20-point lines, which certainly wasn't the case last year. So we're still trying to get our bearings on where those totals should sit. And if Melbourne and Penrith keep putting scores on like they have, then I'd expect to see those totals starting to blow out as we get deeper into the season. Good luck, punters. Bye.
Broncos host the Sharks to kick off the round. The Sharkies are 11.5-point favourites, so one of the many double-digit favourites Tristan referenced there. Brisbane's naming the same 17. Martin looked all right at fullback. The Sharkies get boosted by their captain, Dal Finucane, and Wade Graham is actually in the reserves. Now, before I get your thoughts on this game, Padonis, we've got a salute to the five guys, and you're one of the five guys. We know you guys hit a 21-1 multi a couple weeks ago. Then we said, let's give opportunity to more of the boys to share their tips because the guys are running hot. Benny comes in, he tips a winner. Last week, Dane, not only tipping in the rugby a plus 5.5 underdog, but they won the game outright by double digits, the Brumbies. And so this week, we're turning over to the stats man to see what he's tipping, and it's for this game, Broncos, Sharkies.
Greetings, TryPod spam. This is Brent Douglas at NRL Statsman for you dabblers out there. One of the five guys, and it's my tip this week. And my tip's going to be the alternate handicap, Bet365, the Sharks minus 9.5 versus the Broncos at $1.75. Reason for this is the Sharks, for me, is just obviously a much more superior outfit to the Broncos. They've had 2 losses this year, 1 to Raiders in round 1 and the Storm probably 2 rounds ago, round 6. Broncos, on the other hand, have had 3 wins, 1 versus the Rabbitohs in round 1, which was super, and then 2 versus the Bulldogs since then. In the 9 of 10 games at home for the Broncos on a Thursday night, they've actually lost, and in 6 of those 9, they've actually been beaten by 10 or more points. So I think Fitz is going to have these guys ready to go after their second half fade for the Sharks. And I dare say this minus 9.5 should get covered fairly easily. Cheers, guys. Happy punting.
The stats man throwing some stats in there, and he loves anytime try scorer bets as well, and has statistical models to back up anything he tips out. But he's gone for a traditional handicap there, and no doubt about it, the Sharks come in with more form, and they are the superior team. So how many points do you think they should be favoured by, Padonis?
Yeah, I think where he's sort of leaning to at that 9.5, that's where I sort of set this line. I don't have it above 10. I can't make this line double digits. I do like the Broncos. I do lean towards the Broncos here, but you didn't feel quite as strongly as I did, and so we couldn't make it a best bet. But for anyone out there, and you can hear my thoughts in a second, but if you do like the Broncos like me, then plus 12 at $2 on Neds and Lads, I think is a pretty good number. I think last week the Sharks were guilty of sort of taking their foot off the gas in that second half. The scoreline flooded Manly, as we spoke about at the top of the show. So I do think the Sharks will come out focused, given how that second half ended. Fitzgibbon is a defensive coach, so he wouldn't have been impressed with what he saw. So for sure, the Sharks are going to come out and have energy. They're going to have intensity. And it feels like everyone's playing hard and everyone's sort of bought into what's happening down there in the Shire. So I really need a strong reason to bet against them. And I feel like the Broncos clicked in that final 30 minutes against the Bulldogs. And I think it's a good sign that they blew them out, even though you might think that it's sort of factored into the handicap here. I actually prefer that rather than if they ended up winning in a close sort of game, because I feel that this side needed it to sort of really get that confidence. I don't feel the sides are that far apart. I think Brisbane's forward pack can match up with the Sharks. And if Reynolds is on song and he can sort of kick into the corners and sort of manage the game, then I feel that Brisbane are a decent chance of winning the game outright. Not many people will be on Brisbane to win head-to-head this week, but I definitely feel like they are a chance. Anytime I feel that they can win outright, I do like to lean towards the points, but you didn't quite get there either, Jacob. What are your thoughts?
Well, no surprise. We know you love the Broncos after all, mate, but I can see it as well. Like, I do think it's a high line. It's above double digits for Brisbane at home. They do play well at home in front of that crowd. But the issue I've got is you mentioned that the Sharkies could have won by a lot more if they came out second half and were more ruthless. Brisbane's the opposite. Brisbane was flattered by their scoreline. It was actually anybody's game with 20 to go, and then they ran in the late try. So now I don't know if I necessarily want to get on Brisbane, but I take your point that they get the confidence out of that. And sometimes with the bad sides, you shouldn't be afraid to take them just because they looked extra good last week, because they might really feed off that confidence. But yeah, there's some special sauce down there in Cronulla this season. And getting back Finucane into the side, you're right. Like, you really want to be picky in terms of when you might oppose this Cronulla side. And I think that Brent made a great point there, that they let the game go away. Like, a real top four side doesn't ease up in the second 40. So I don't think they'll come out of that game too overconfident. I think they'll want to tidy that up. And you're talking about a double-digit line, and if Cronulla gets up, I think there'll be a higher emphasis to carry on with it, as opposed to just be happy to get up to Brisbane and just get the win. They're starting to get so good that they want to not just win, but win comprehensively. That's my fear with taking the points, but I wouldn't go against Brisbane. It seems too steep for a home side that's got ability. The Stags-Talakai matchup, that's going to be worth the price of admission alone. Maybe to Friday.
Is that an Origin jersey, do you think? Is that an Origin audition year?
If Talakai does to Stags what he did to Harper, then you'd actually have me sold. Then you would have to have him playing Origin. Otherwise, it's a good debate for New South Wales. You can let us know who you think might deserve to be there. Maybe it's a guy playing for the Panthers this week, and they are travelling to the Gold Coast, and the Panthers are 18.5 to 20-point favourites, of course. So the Titans have reshuffled Brimson back to fullback, where he kind of debuted, played his first number of in the 1 jersey. Will Smith moves to 5'8", Sammy to the wing, Herbert to centre, Fafita definitely not at centre. He's back at second row, and Campbell in the reserve, so they could shuffle further. We'll see. The Panthers, same side again, although they snuck Sony Luke, the young hooker, onto the bench last week, and he looked good. And he will retain his spot on the bench. Which way are you leaning in this one?
Yeah, so as we all know, the Panthers are just an absolute freight train at the moment, and they sort of seem to enjoy bulldozing these sort of sides. There is some value from a pure numbers perspective against the Titans, but to bet against his Panthers team, like, I really need to find a really good reason or superb line value, and I don't think we have either in this scenario. So we were on the Titans last week, as everyone knows, and they had sort of everything to play for against the Cowboys, and they sort of failed us. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them come out hard and put in a good performance, because it always seems to happen to us when we sort of expect it the week before. But Holbrook swapped around his team this week, so he's put Will Smith in the halves, as you touched on, and Brimson back to fullback. I'd actually make that a sort of downgrade, and I feel like it's a little bit panicked and sort of disrupts the side a bit more. Not that they were playing well previously anyway, but maybe it's a sign that there's some other issues within the club that he sort of feels the need to sort of change this around. So for me, it's a pass, because I can't bet on the Panthers knowing that I don't think that the line's in their favour. So I could only play the Titans, but given the reasons above, Panthers are just too good at the moment for us to sort of get in front of.
Yeah, we need to adapt to the new style of the NRL, and that is these juggernaut teams. It is a really close competition for the most part, but when you get the form of the Panthers or the Storm, as we saw on Monday night, even as we saw on Sunday afternoon, it's not a close competition sometimes when these sides play. And in years gone by, would have never laid, a number over double digits. But we come to an era now where you can lay 20 points, and it can be a really good bet. And maybe that's what you want to do here. I know a lot of people are telling us, you should only be betting on the trustworthy teams, only bet the good teams. But, who's trustworthy these days? I feel like other than Penrith and Melbourne, is that all, people want to bet on? And you can, and you'll probably be doing pretty well this season, but it just can't last backing the sides that everybody loves, because you're going to pay a premium. Now, the Titans are the exact opposite, and they're in everyone's bad books, including ours. They've failed punters many times, and therefore the line is pretty high. And I don't want to go near them. The point you made there is a big one, that if a side had everything to play for, was in a big spot last week and failed so miserably, are there things going on beneath the surface that we don't even know about that is a reason for some of these head-scratching performances? Maybe. And the other part of it is with Penrith, you just do not want to get out in front of them unless you've got a good reason. They're virtually playing the same squad for 5 straight weeks, and they are enjoying pulverising teams. And who's to say that they couldn't do it on Friday night? So we'll leave that one alone, because as you know, we've got 2 best bets and a mixed matchup tied into the blockbuster Friday night, which is South Eagles. Line is anywhere from 3.5, where you will take for your major stake on Sportsbet for our best bet, all the way up to 4.5, and there's flat fours out there as well. So shop around depending on who you like, because people will make a case for the Seagulls, especially if they think this game is close. And our other best bet is just Souths over 3.5 tries. Milne is suspended. Host is injured. Tass starts at centre. For Manly, Tapau and Kepi are back. Davies out injured. Olakuatu suspended. Paseka is out. And Kula comes in for Harper, who I think officially retired from professional rugby league about 5 minutes into the game last week. Any further reasons why you might tell of South this weekend?
Yeah, I think the other thing we should mention, which we didn't at the top, that this is actually at a neutral venue in Gosford, and even still, I still feel like the line's a bit short. I had it set at 5.5, so we're getting a great number at a -2 with a push there. And as I touched on at the top, we sort of wanted to bet on South, but we haven't sort of found enough value until now to sort of step in on them at a good opportunity with a good team off a bad loss in that classic sort of spot. Demetriou's press conference was pretty disappointed in the team, and he is sort of defensively minded as a coach. And he wasn't impressed with the 16 errors they did have. Cody Walker came on the Matty Johns show and said the same thing. So I think there'll be a focus on ball control and discipline this week, getting through their sets. And I feel like they have the sort of side that can do that, disrupt Manly, because of how good South's forward pack is. And even with the power back, as we touched on, I don't think that they can match up well against the likes of Arrow, Kalomatungi and Murray. And South have all the game breakers in the side, where I sort of feel like Evans has to have the game of his life for Manly to win this, given that South will be focused. And so I'm expecting South to come out all guns blazing and put on a few tries, and hopefully they get the win for us in the cover, and they can break our best bet duck, our run of outs.
It's going to turn at some point. It would be great if it did this weekend. And the thing about Souths is that they do have quite a clinical attack, but it needs to be on the back of building pressure, and it needs to be on the back of territory. And in all these games where they've had this errors, they just have not been able to mount pressure or get the ball down the right end of the park or put some tackles into the defence to then execute their plays. It's been few and far between opportunities to put on points. So therefore, I think we are buying low on Souths if you jump on them this week. And there's a third way to get on them in addition to the two best bets, and that's our mixed matchup. We are going to take the Souths to outscore the Sharks, but it's the Sharkies 60-minute total. So you spoke about how you do lean to the Broncos on Thursday night, and they are at home. And I said that I still think Brisbane's a side that can compete with the Sharks. I'm a bit wary of getting out in front of Cronulla, but what we see in a few of these games is teams can hang around up to a point and then it can blow out late. We avoid anything like that where the Sharkies, if they do want to flex their muscles and if they don't relent against Brisbane, we don't worry about any points Cronulla scores after the clock hits 60. And then whatever Cronulla has on the board at that point, we need Souths to exceed. So I'm looking at Sharkies, anything kind of 20 or under at the hour mark against Brisbane. I feel pretty good. That's $2 odds, I should say. Max bet 200. And guess what? If you want to bet the no, if you're someone who believes that tipsters can be in horrible form, or you just disagree, whatever, something for everybody in this market. $2 either side for the mixed matchup. But our tip is Souths. I think in brackets it'll say TryPod tip. Moving to Saturday, New Zealand, playing the Raiders, both off big losses. Raiders are actually a slight road favourite, -1.5. For Kenny's Lesniak out, currently Pene suspended, Kosi dropped, Berry, Vailea and Katoa are back in. Canberra will welcome back their captain, Elliott. This is an interesting game for Donis. How did you see it?
Yeah, a bit of a strange one. So the line moved, as you touched on, from the Warriors being a small favourite to a small dog on the back of their 70-10 record loss to Melbourne on Anzac Day. The Warriors did suffer a few injuries in that, and they've got a bit of a reshuffled lineup. Whilst Canberra sort of put up a decent effort, but were just outclassed by the Panthers in the second half. So they get to face a much easier opponent. So sort of difficult to gauge where they're at as a side, given that we have been on them the last few weeks and they're disappointed and haven't covered the line in 4 weeks. I don't really feel like there's any value in taking either team to win, and I can make a case for either side. And to me, it just feels like it's a game that's going to be a tight, grinding style that could probably fall either way. And do we want to take a team to win where they could easily lose by a try either way, and then we're getting a 50-50 coin flip game where we're giving up 10 cents in the dollar, and long term doesn't really feel like a sustainable proposition. So it's a pass for me. Do you have any other sort of thoughts to add to that?
It does feel like a true 50-50, like one big moment. And that's not to say that, like, I think it's going to golden point. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if either of these teams wins by double digits, because I think that they're both sides that could really feed off momentum and feed off a good start in this one, because they're both really struggling for confidence at the moment. So when I kind of first looked at the game, I did lean to Canberra because I think across the park they are the better team, the more complete side. But then again, I just felt like if you go against New Zealand and they are at home, at least their adopted home, and they're off the most humiliating second half defeat, I think, in something like 80 years, that could be a real call to action for them to respond and actually want to come out and redeem themselves and actually be happy with the short turnaround, because they want to flush what happened against the Storm. And, you know, in fairness to New Zealand, like the Storm were in such a mood, and a lot of things did go against the Warriors in that one. And they handed the Storm a couple tries on a platter in the first half, where it was still only a 6-point game at half time. And it was still, I think, tight for the first 10 minutes of the second half. And look, to me, I didn't really downgrade New Zealand more whether they lost the second half by 24 or 54. Like, it was just more and more and more, but they'd kind of dropped their heads, and it's just one thing leads to another, and you don't have the ball and you're getting more and more tired and you're chasing shadows. So I feel like Melbourne could have done that to a few other teams. Now, look, it's not a good look. Anzac Day as well. You question the character. The coach himself said that a couple of guys gave up. That's not a good thing at all. Like that's a worrying sign. But again, do you get a response when you've been called out? I feel like West hit rock bottom 3 weeks ago, and look what they've done since then. So, as I say, nothing would kind of shock me in this one. I think people can make a case for both sides. We'll sit back and just observe that one. The Doggies host the Roosters. The Roosters are 13.5-point favourites. Naden Avarillo, Siamanifenai, all back into the side off their COVID layoffs. The Guama is in for the suspended Tupou, and they've reshuffled their forward pack just in terms of bench and starters. Like, Radley didn't start last week, and it was evident because the opening try was basically a prop going through untouched straight through the middle of the Roosters' defence. Would Radley have been there to tackle him? I don't know. He couldn't have done any worse than the guys that were there. But we are not touching the Roosters this weekend if they let us down there. They are a hard team to read. They've disappointed us so far this season, haven't they?
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on it there. I don't like jumping on a team the second week after we bet on them and they let us down, unless obviously we're getting exceptional line value. But the Roosters are probably the only way that I could look. And look, as you touched, I'm not sure how much of last week was due to injury or illness in the lead up, but Radley returns to the starting side. I do think they'll be a bit pissed off and will look to sort of take out their frustrations on a Bulldogs team who can be attacked and who can sort of leak points. I think they have a clear edge across the park. But I don't think there is any value when you do consider the Dogs have sort of played better than their results so far this year. And they do have a full week to prepare now, given that last week they had all those disruptions with COVID. So, again, it's another game where lean the Roosters, but going to have to pass it.
Yeah, said in the recap, just for what it's worth, the story came out after the game that supposedly a flu had been through the Roosters team. And I don't say that as an excuse for our best bet. We'll never know how much of an effect that had, but you probably have to factor that in to how you assess the Roosters. If you want to really, pan them, they could. There's a chance they come out this week and they play, gangbusters. They play perfect footy and they beat the Dogs by 30 or 40. It's certainly a possibility. But again, the Doggies didn't disgrace themselves up in Brisbane, are capable of putting in a fight here, just enough to keep us off laying the lumber with the Roosters. So we'll move on. Well, one other point I'll make is that, a shining light among the season so far could be that Bulldogs winning wooden spoon tip at 15-1. And after they lost again last week, a winnable game up in Brisbane, and the Tigers of all teams got another win, and now the Doggies are all alone at the bottom of the ladder. Still a long way to go, but the odds are far shorter than 15-1 now. Finally, Saturday night, the Eels play the Cowboys in Darwin, and the Cowboys are plus 10.5 despite their impressive form, and they've been a thorn in our side so far this season for the most part. Keen to get your thoughts, as you are a well-known Cowboy hater, Adonis. But first, thanks to Dabble, we've got a guest to weigh in on this one, and he's on a bit of a high as well.
Hey Dabblers, Robbie Farah here, back again for my Roughie of the Week. I hope you jumped on the Dragons last week in the Anzac Day game. Great win by the Dragons, great value. This week, there's a couple of roughies I like. I really like the Titans at odds against the Panthers. I know the Panthers are red-hot favourites against them, but $7. The Titans are a team that when they're on, they can really pile on the points. I know the Panthers will be tough to beat, but you can have a crack at the $7. And I also like the Cowboys against the Eels. Cowboys have been in some red-hot form lately. I really like the way their team is developing. A lot of great young players in that side, and I think they can upset the Eels this week. So jump on Dabble, have some banter, have some fun with your mates, copy some bets, and all the best.
Now, you heard correctly. Robbie tipped the Dragons outright upset over the Roosters, but you guys probably didn't hear that before the game because he sent us the clip after the pod went up. And I still actually did intend to post it on social media, especially because it went head-to-head with our tip, which I think we'd split with Robbie this season before then. And I just forgot. And then after the unceremonious losing of the best bet, and in fact the outright upset by the Dragons, I remember social for at least to pay respect where it's due because it was a great tip by Robbie. And so I dropped the ball twice there, thinking that the Roosters were the right side and then not getting Robbie's tip out to you guys. Sorry about that. Make what you will of his upset tip with the Cowboys. They're unchanged into this one, off an impressive win last week. Parramatta also unchanged. Before kickoff, they slotted Dylan Brown to the centres, which raised some eyebrows. They were very short on the outside backs. Jacob Arthur came in and played 6. I mean, they looked fine, but I think anyone would have looked good against Newcastle last week, wouldn't they?
Yeah, for sure. It was quite a poor performance from them. But look, the Cowboys are a team that sort of caused the most conjecture in the group this year. People always sort of feel like we were sort of against them and hating them. But there have been times where we have sort of supported them. I think back to that sort of multi we gave out on that Saturday where we had Cowboys halftime, full-time against Canberra. We just fell one leg short with the Eels there. But look, when the line's right and the sort of situation's right, we'll like any team. And we've said this before. We play numbers, not teams. We don't look at what's on the jersey. And that's how we sort of play long term. But I think this week the public's looking at this line thinking that the spread is a bit big. But the Cowboys, to me, when I look through their sort of schedule so far, they've only played one team that's been in the top 8, and that's been the Roosters, and they were soundly beaten in that. And I sort of feel like this game will go the same way, and I can't see the Eels not winning. Yes, the game is on Darwin on a neutral field, but I do think that there's a clear 10-point gap between these teams in terms of ability. So I feel the line's fair. And Para do have a big edge through the spine and through the forwards. So I could only play Para, but I feel like the line's spot on. So how much sort of value are we really getting? So it's either Para or pass for me.
You said it there. You said, I don't hate the Cowboys. Now let me make the case against the Cowboys. But I hear you. It is all about the number and not the team. We are naturally going to oppose sides that we think are overperforming, which naturally means we actually go head-to-head with some form sides. And that has been the Cowboys. And we came off second best on the weekend. I think I said before, that would now be 4 games we've had a bet involving the Cowboys, and they've won 2, they've lost 2. And we've been against them in all 4. And like kicking ourselves, we didn't play on the Cowboys the week we liked them, which was round 2, where they did beat Canberra, although you had the value play, which was pretty good, half-time, full-time. Cowboys. But yeah, other people to address, other people saying stuff like that to us, like, stop backing this team or stop backing that team. I've heard it all. If I stopped backing every team that people said that over the years, there'd be nobody left to back. So the truth is the line gets adjusted based on how teams play every week. So there's nobody we say we won't bet on. There's nobody we say we definitely will bet on. It all depends on the line, of course. And that's why, I feel like it's easy to preview the games and just say who you think will win. You'll get most of them right, but it's a lot harder to say with the line. I'll give the Cowboys enough respect to not want to lay the chalk against them because double digits, they are fighting hard. And I talked about in the recap that we've underestimated them and that they've just got a lot more confidence in the side and they are all playing hard and they are getting better because they're young. As much as like you can say inexperience is a criticism, it's also opportunity to grow quicker than some other sides. And this is a good challenge for them. Whereas Parramatta, problem is as well, if you take them, they're coming off a game where they couldn't have looked any better, but their opponent was just mincemeat there. The Knights are hosting the Eels, the pitiful Knights that we just spoke about before. Once again, they're at home. They're 19.5-point underdogs with Gagai out. Jones is named, but he's injured. And the Storm, no major changes. Which way would you lean here?
Yeah, so the way that I sort of look at this game, broke it down, is simply this. So the Knights were coming off 4 straight losses last week. They got to play Para at home on the back of a new contract extension that Ponga just signed. A lot of euphoria around the club and the area. So they had so much to play for at home on a Sunday afternoon game, and they tragically underperformed. And how can we now expect them to lift and play any better against a better team than what the Eels were last week? So I don't see a scenario where Melbourne lose, and I could only lean towards them. But I can't play Melbourne either when they're coming off a near all-time winning record, scoring 70 points. You're never going to find any line value the week after, and the NRL is not that easy where you can just take all the favourites every week. So from that point of view, it's a game that I'm going to have to pass again.
Now, having said that, I also lean to the Storm, and if you are going to take them, I'm not going to talk you out of them, and I am going to say get on sooner rather than later because I could only see the line climbing other than obviously if someone was ruled out for the Storm or if there was bad weather to roll in. Other than that, it's going to be in the 20s by kickoff. Everyone's going to be on the Storm in every way, shape or form, including same-game multis. It was kind of hard to lose a same-game multi if you like the Storm against the Warriors because everyone on the team scored. All came second half too, so there's a lot of excitement for people. I know some people had same-game multis. It all came down to Olam to score, and he got there right at the end. But, yeah, this Knights team, they've just got deep-seated issues and they don't have a lot of solutions that they can turn to. I think I said on the recap, they are the doppelganger for our season, 2-0, like our mixed matchup was, and then a 5-match skid. So if the Knights form is going to continue to reflect the TryPod form, then we are in a lot of trouble this week because the Storm, like the Panthers, you do not want to go against them. It doesn't mean you never do, but you need a good reason. I can't find one to oppose Melbourne. So it's like even you feel like the line is out by 4 or 5 points, you know that in a moment they can put 6 points on out of nowhere. That kind of erases an edge that you might have had, or certainly when you watched New Zealand last week, handing the Storm tries. The last thing they need to do is get any help scoring tries. So I don't even know if the Knights deep down believe they can win this. They are thin with the suspension of Barnett, Fitzgibbon. It thins out the forward pack. They're leaning on other guys like Frizzell, Clemmer, the Saifidi brothers. I wonder if those guys aren't as good as they used to be. And even Ponga, he's had flashes, but you need to see more from a guy on his salary and his, stature in the game, I suppose. And he can't do it all on his own either. So and now Gagai out, who's actually been pretty good for him. So I wouldn't touch the Knights. I thought you were going to go with an angle of the Knights were at home last week and they were plus 7.5, and now the line's increased by 12. Is Melbourne that much better than Para? But actually, I think it is a fair adjustment based on what we saw most recently out of these sides. If Knights can make a game of this, I'll be quite surprised. It'd be Melbourne or nothing for me. Finally, we got 2 teams on winning streaks. Who would have thought that? The Dragons play West at Wollongong, and West are plus 4.5. Jack Bird is named for St. George. I thought he broke his arm and actually thought he hurt his lower leg earlier in the game. So Talatau Amone could slot in there at 5'8". Sewer will be out. And for the Tigers, Stafford Toa back to fullback again because obviously Dane Laurie is out. Tuilagi also returns. Interesting game. How do you see it?
Yeah, a bit of an interesting one. As you said, 2 teams that have sort of exceeded expectations the past few weeks. And on face value, I sort of feel like I can make a case for both sides. The Tigers really turn around their form, winning against sort of contenders. You'd call them in the Eels and South by 1-point field goals. Hastings had his turn, and then Brooks sort of had his turn to sort of silence some of the critics because he sort of felt like he was getting a lot of the brunt of the criticism of the Tigers this year. Hastings he's returned from his suspension. He's really turned out to be a real leader there. But I think the missing factor that people aren't sort of saying is that Dane Laurie is a big part of what they do with the ball. He won't be there. So I sort of favour the Dragons and feel like they are the deserved favourite, whereas a lot of people will probably look at this game on paper and feel like the sides are pretty even and the points might look attractive, taking the 4.5 with the Tigers. I don't feel that it is. If I had to lean the side, it probably would be the Dragons, given that. But then you could also argue that both sides might be in a bit of a letdown spot. And both will sort of see this as a winnable game. Tigers get a bit more rest than what the Dragons do. And I actually prefer if Jack Bird does get injured and he can't go because I feel that the side's stronger without him there. So interesting to watch sort of team news as the week unfolds. I do lean Dragons, but I sort of feel like there might be some money that comes for the Tigers over the weekend, given that sort of perception. So I'd hate to sort of indicate a side and the line's a little bit off than the number that we give out or a bet that we give out. So that's probably my only hesitation. I know that you felt similar, Jacob.
Yeah, I think people would look at these sides and think that they are similar, and then the points becomes enticing because it could be a close game. They kind of both won similar ways last week in that their superior opponent, was just a bit too sloppy. It just made a bit too many errors, didn't execute, and it kept them in the game. But then give these sides, St. George and West, all the credit for their bravery and their determination. They fought for 80. When you do that, you give yourself a chance to win. They both came out on the right side of the ledger. West, back-to-back field goal wins. I don't see letdown spot. I see excitement from both sides. A chance to win 3 in a row. That had to be 100-1 2 weeks ago that these sides could come in that scenario. I agree with you, Laurie, is a big loss for Tigers, and I wonder if everyone just thinks that this team's all about Hastings and they're 2-0 since he came back. But they also got Laurie back 2 weeks ago on Easter Monday, and he was there helping them build a lead against Souths before he got injured last week. So that loss will hurt. I don't think the loss of Bird would necessarily hurt Dragons. I'm kind of with you there. If Moan comes in, I wouldn't downgrade him. I'd be very interested to see what the market would do. But we'll leave that one for now. Obviously, Dragons favoured. They are at home. We do think they are the slightly better team. I forgot to mention the jersey comp. We take the Channel 9 game, Sunday Arvo, take the last try scorer and the minute they score. Now, some people I noticed last week are commenting that in the live chat of the YouTube. And it's awesome that people get amongst it. Every week there's a queue of people tuning in for the best bets. I wonder at this point if they're finding out which side to bet against. But nonetheless, it's awesome that there's a chat going on live on YouTube. And I've seen people actually shooting their guesses in, but they don't remain as comments. So you've got to put it under the actual, regular comment section of the YouTube video or Facebook or Winning Mood, which comes on live at 7:30 Wednesday night on Facebook and YouTube. And, of course, that's where we touch on Supercoach. Look, I showed you guys the all-time stats earlier in this pod because you spend 30 to 40 minutes with us at least once a week, maybe twice a week. And, those thousands of results, I think if nothing else, it shows we know a thing or two. The show has to be worthwhile. Very aware that if we're not bringing good information, this goes away. So absolutely understand your pain, your frustration. We feel it too. And we're not resting on old stats. We absolutely have to prove ourselves every season, especially this season. And we need to turn this around. Tonight was our thoughts for round 8, how we're going to approach doing that. Good luck if you agree with us. Good luck if you oppose us as well. Whatever you do it responsibly, please. And Lego.